Are we good to go? All right, awesome. Well, it is my pleasure to introduce our candidates for Commonwealth Attorney. We are going to start with our opening statements from Ms. Shannon Jones and Mr. Howard Gwynn. Ms. Jones, we will begin with your opening statement. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. First and foremost, I want to give a big thank you to the Newport News NAACP, our coalition of concerned clergy, and New Beach Grove for putting on this forum for us tonight. My name is Shannon Jones, and I am so proud to be before you as a candidate for Commonwealth Attorney here at Newport News. I am a graduate of Old Dominion University and Howard University School of Law. I began my legal career as a prosecutor in the city of Philadelphia, and I have served our city in both the Commonwealth Attorney's Office and the City Attorney's Office. In my current role as a city attorney, I serve our public safety departments. I represent police, fire, codes, and HR, and I've gained valuable experience through my work with the City Attorney's Office. But in addition to that, I am a strong community advocate. I am the Criminal Justice Chair for the Newport News NAACP, a member of our Newport News Bar, and I am proud to be the runner of the STARS mock trial program, which we just put on our mock trial today. And I thank you all for your time, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. Mr. Gwynn, your opening statement.
Good evening. Good evening. Is this on? Good evening. My name is Howard Gwynn. I am your Commonwealth Attorney. I was born and raised in the city of Newport News in the Southeast community. I went to elementary school at Newport Elementary School, graduated from George Washington Carver High School as a valedictorian of the class. Then left and went to Dartmouth College where I majored in philosophy, then went to University of Michigan Law School. Always wanted to come back home, so I returned back to this area and started working in the Commonwealth Attorney's Office on May 1st, 1982. And I was elected in 1990 as the Commonwealth Attorney. Some people think that public safety and social justice are incompatible. But I'm here to tell you that social justice is the foundation of public safety. In my office, not only do we prosecute effectively violent criminals, but we also divert the vast majority of people that come through the system to make them better, to make their lives better through drug court, mental health court, DV prevention. We help establish the first elder abuse service center at Riverside Hospital. And so again, lest anybody be confused, there's no incompatibility between public safety and social justice.
And for our candidates for tonight, for timekeeping purposes, we'll see our timekeeper who is seated here. When you see the yellow sign, you have 30 seconds remaining to answer. When you see red, that means stop. You're out of time. All right. So first question, I'll address this to both candidates. So you'll each have 2 minutes to respond to this. First, tell us what motivated you to pursue a career in law, particularly municipal law. And Ms. Jones, we'll start with you.
Yes. So prior to going to law school, I was very active in the NAACP. I worked in the national office, and doing civil rights work was the main reason that I decided to go to law school. When I made that decision to get a law degree, the only school that I wanted to go to was Howard University because of its rich background in civil rights. But the reason that I decided to become a prosecutor was because I realized that the best way to bring about criminal justice reform in our communities was through the seat of the prosecutor. Starting my career in Philadelphia, I was able to try literally thousands of cases and make an impact on the lives of individuals every day. But for me, I didn't stay in Philadelphia. I wanted to come back home to Hampton Roads, and I've been able to work both in Newport News and Hampton as a city attorney and as a prosecutor. My entire career has been about public service and about justice. And the reason that I am running is because I believe that we are in a moment where we can do more. I believe our citizens want to see us doing more. And when it comes to criminal justice reform, the best way for us to make change is to have a Commonwealth attorney who is focused and prioritizing criminal justice reform from the standpoint of community prosecution. I believe that our citizens want to see us engaged in the community, investing in our youth, and focusing on prevention and rehabilitation. That is the way that we can build safer communities. We can make sure that our young people grow up in a community where they have opportunities. And I believe that that is the best way for us to build a stronger Newport News. Thank you.
And Mr. Gwynn, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Well, I certainly didn't expect Ms. Jones to endorse me, but we do criminal justice reform, we do community outreach in our office, so there's no need for changes if it's done already. The reason why I became a lawyer is because I wanted to make sure the system worked fairly for everyone. I grew up in a segregated neighborhood here in the city of Newport News, so I saw disparate treatment. I remember going into my father's doctor's office and having to sit in a room that said colored people. And so this is very concerning to me. I will tell you honestly, I never expected to be a prosecutor. Sharon Stewart, who some people here know, I came over to talk to Sharon. She asked me, had I ever thought about being a prosecutor? I said I had not. Asked where the office was. She said it's right up on the 3rd floor of the same building I'm in. I went up to stairs and talked to the Commonwealth Attorney. He was not in. I went to my parents' house and waited. I came back and interviewed with him, and he offered me a job. And he told me, don't do this for more than 2 to 5 years. But one thing I always tell my children is everything else being equal, find something you feel called to do, something you feel passionate about, something you can wake up every day and can't wait to get to work, to serve people. And I found my calling and I found my passion when I became a prosecutor. So 2 to 5 years turned to 8 years, and then the job became available, and I ran for it, and I got elected. And I know it was part of God's plan for me, and I'm so grateful to be able to serve this community.
And this is, if we can hold the applause, please. Mrs. Jones, I do want to give you 30 seconds for a rebuttal since Mr. Gwynn did invoke your name in his response.
Absolutely. So I think that when it comes to social justice and community outreach, it's not enough just to have people in your office who do the job. I believe it's important to lead by example. I am out in our community every single day, and that is true community prosecution. Doing work within the NAACP, working with our youth, again, literally running the STARS mock trial program with an Achievable Dream. That is really how we bring about change. And when we're looking at the issues of social justice, those are not issues that we see being discussed enough in our criminal justice system. Our Commonwealth Attorney needs to be a leader for change, and I think that our city deserves more.
We do have questions that have been submitted from the audience, and Ms. Jones, there is one directly for you asking, what experience do you feel that you will bring to the Commonwealth's Attorney's office, and what in your past has prepared you for this office?
So I believe that my experience in Philly has been tremendous. Being able to work in the 6th largest city in our country gave me a perspective for what it means to really bring about change and to really address gun violence. Additionally, as a city attorney and working with our public safety departments, I understand the issues that are being faced in our community, and I help to write policy every single day to address it. But I think that the difficulty that a lot of people have here is that Mr. Gwynn has been in the office for 40 years, and that's the only type of experience that we've seen from him. But my experience as a prosecutor in other cities and working in the city of Hampton and Newport News has been valuable. I have a perspective on how we can do things differently, and I know that we need to do more. Working in the city of Hampton, they are doing more. And I understand that investing in our youth, focusing on juvenile justice, and making sure that we are setting our young people on the right path is the best place for us to start. But additionally to that, being a community prosecutor is so important for our community to be able to have a voice. Every single neighborhood has different needs, and it needs to have people who are out there engaging with them and working alongside. Our police department has adopted a philosophy of community policing, and they're out every single day. And our police department and our fire department, under the leadership of a new chief, has been doing community work as well. Our police department does not just solve crime. Our fire department does not just fight fires, and our Commonwealth Attorney's office cannot just focus on prosecuting cases. We've got to get out in the community.
Mr. Gwynn, you have 30 seconds if you'd like to
Thank you.
respond.
Well, y'all know Ms. Jones has not been in the office for 2 years and doesn't understand what we do now. But we do got it in the community. We have over 152 jury trials that are pending in the office. And so what it takes now is all hands on deck. And it requires also the Commonwealth Attorney to be able to try cases himself or herself. I've tried hundreds of jury trials, I've tried 70 murder cases. So when it comes time to roll up my sleeves and get in the trenches, I can do that because I've done it before. We have a full-time community outreach person in the office who's out there every day uplifting this community.
And Mr. Gwynn, a question from our audience members regarding, you talked about jury trials. This question asks, how many jury trials have you been the lead attorney that has made it through sentencing?
Hundreds. Literally.
All right, thank you. My next question regards mandatory minimum sentencing. And Ms. Jones, I will have you start with this question. Widespread evidence shows that mandatory minimum sentences produce substantial harm with no overall benefit to crime control. Determined by lawmakers rather than judges, these sentences represent a uniquely American approach to sentencing that has accelerated prison growth. They constrain judicial discretion, deepen racial disparities in the criminal legal system, and cause far-reaching harm to individuals, families, and communities. Tell us, as Commonwealth's Attorney, your views on mandatory minimum sentences and highlight any experience that you've had with this issue.
Well, as a civil rights advocate and a progressive prosecutor, I am opposed to mandatory minimums. They do not make us safer, and in fact, mandatory minimums do nothing but cause our taxpayers more money and strip our judges of their discretion. I believe that mandatory minimums go against the very foundation of our justice system, which is built on the idea that both sides get to present evidence and a judge can make a decision. I also know that our community is ready for change in that issue. Last week, we held a forum on criminal justice reform with Congressman Scott and Kimba Smith, and nearly 200 citizens came into that church to listen to us talk about justice reform and why mandatory minimums are wrong. But in terms of my experience with mandatory minimums, yes, they are still the law of the land, and I know that in the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, individual prosecutors are given the discretion to decide whether or not they go forward on those charges. As Commonwealth Attorney, I would have a policy that before you proceed on a mandatory minimum charge, you need to get approval in order to strip our judges of the discretion and to deprive defendants of their full due process and opportunity to advocate for themselves. I feel that mandatory minimums are a remnant of the past, and we know that in the 1990s, it was the Democrats who passed the crime bill that established these mandatory minimums. But since that time, the Democrats have evolved, and in fact, Joe Biden, who was the architect of the crime bill, has now dialed that back. So I think as the research has shown us, they do not benefit our community and they don't make us safer. I believe in justice, and I believe that in order for us to fully attain that, we have to stop using mandatory minimums.
Mr. Wood, 30 seconds if you'd like to respond.
Well, as Ms. Jones said, I sort of trust the people that work for me. So when somebody thinks a mandatory minimum isn't appropriate, they can now process or change the charge. They have the discretion to do that because I hire good people and I trust them. But on the flip side of that, I've had occasions since I've been the Commonwealth Attorney to prosecute people who will kill and maim other people as long as there's breath in their bodies. Several years ago, I prosecuted a serial killer who abducted a 17-year-old, stabbed him 123 times. 2 days later, he abducted a 20-year-old and stabbed him 75 times. He tried to pick up a 10-year-old in the supermarket before he was arrested by the police. And we were told by an FBI profiler, this man will kill until you stop him. And so I will tell you, if I had that case again, I would put as many mandatory minimums as possible to keep him off the street.
Thank you. This question is for you, Mr. Gwynn, from a member of our audience who shared that they have been a recent gun violence victim. The question is, what is your new plan to decrease gun offenders and violence and increase convictions in the city? According to the person who submitted the question, they feel that the current plan is not working. So again, what is your plan to decrease gun offenders and violence and increase convictions in the city?
Well, I would disagree with the person who wrote the question, because I think if anybody who listened to the mayor's state of the city address several months ago, what the mayor said was that homicides were reduced in 2024 by 53%. violent crime, gun violence was reduced by more than 20%. And then we have specifically credited the ceasefire program, which is a program that is operated out of my office. So I disagree with the person that wrote the question. Gun violence is in fact being reduced, the number showing.
Ms. Jones, 30 seconds if you have a rebuttal.
First and foremost, I would never disregard the opinions of a citizen in our community about their experiences with gun violence. I think that the way that we address it is by addressing juvenile justice. We know that the youth violence in our city is being committed mostly by young people. And the reason why we saw that change was because in 2023, our mayor challenged the Newport News Police Department to work overtime to get that gun rate down. And what did they do? They invested in youth programs. They literally created a drone camp, a pickleball camp. They had more camps than I can imagine because they understood that prevention was the best way for us to address crime. The Commonwealth Attorney's Office has to be a part of the plan for prevention. We can't leave it all to the police department to do the work.
And this next question is regarding juveniles and juvenile sentencing, and this is for each of our candidates, so you'll each have 2 minutes to address this. So under what circumstances do you believe juveniles should be certified to be tried as adults? Do you believe that juveniles belong in prisons with adults? Ms. Jones, what are your plans?
So I believe that charging juveniles should be an absolute last resort. When I was in the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, we routinely and at arraignment filed paperwork to try juveniles as adults. In my office, I would make sure that before we ever filed that type of paperwork, that we have an investigation and that we understand that this is a necessary way to proceed on a case. The school to prison pipeline is literally established because of the justice system funneling young people into an adult system. So I am opposed to proceeding as a matter of course with charging juveniles as adults, and I believe that by focusing on prevention and investing in young people, we can end that school to prison pipeline.
And Mr. Gwynn, I'll repeat the question. Under what circumstances do you believe juveniles should be certified to be tried as adults? Do you believe that juveniles belong in prisons with adults? Please speak to your experience.
Sure. I think juveniles who have to be at least 17 and commit a crime of violence, I certainly agree with Ms. Jones on that. But I strongly disagree about what we do in my office. In 2024, we handled 412 cases in juvenile court. And only 3 of those persons were certified as adults, just 3 of 412. 2 of those persons had shot a person and paralyzed him for the rest of his life. The third one had committed murder. All 3 of them were 17 years old. I certainly agree that prevention and intervention is an important piece of this equation. We do that and have done it for some time. Juveniles who come to court who have nonviolent offenses are diverted almost 100% of the time to diversion programs. Children who come in for a first offense, 72% of the cases, they send back home to their parents. And so we do the work. We know it works. We've done it before.
Mr. Gwynn, we have quite a few questions regarding the Ridge Neck Elementary School shooting that happened in January of 2023. So one question that a lot of our community members have is, why did it take so long for the Commonwealth's office to prosecute the parent of the child who shot the teacher?
We took as long as the investigation took, because I'm sure as people understand, a lot of the victims were children, and special care had to be taken to talk to those victims and to make sure they could talk to us about the cases. The parents were incredibly upset because every parent in the classroom in Mrs. Swerter would have had their children transferred to another school, they were denied. There were parents who had to sell their homes and move to other jurisdictions to get their kids in different schools. All those kids were going to psychological counseling, including their parents. So one of the delays was to wait until those children were able to testify effectively to tell us exactly what happened. We then turned the case over to a more special grand jury because it was my belief, because of the gravity of the case, and because so many people in Newport News have children in school, that it was important to have 11 citizens in our community speak on what the issues were, and what the solutions were, and that's what we did. Because anybody who knows me knows that I trust the people in this community to do the right thing.
One follow-up question to that. Do you believe the outcome of this case will impact the school employees' liability? So, an additional part of that question, please explain your justification for the charges against the administrator. Although the grand jury did request prosecution, did you have the authority to not go forward with the case? And do you believe the outcome of this case will impact school employees' liability?
Well, first of all, as you correctly pointed out, the grand jury charged Ms. Parker. We did not charge Ms. Parker. The code does not even allow us to be present during the deliberation. So I can't tell you what they considered, why they came to the conclusion that they came to, because they're supposed to be fair and impartial. The second part about your question, I don't think people, school officials will think they have something about our business. I will tell you quite honestly that the school officials at Richland, the teachers and the counselors welcomed the opportunity to talk to the grand jury because they felt they were not being seen or heard. And so they had an opportunity to be seen and heard. Now, the other part of your question, could I have gone across the cases? Sure, I could have. But what's the point in having our citizens speak on it? What's the point in trusting the people in this community? What's the point in going through this process if I was going to drop the charges anyway? As I said, I trust the people in this community. I've worked for them and been their lawyer for over 40 years, and I trust their judgment, and I trust them now.
And Ms. Jones, I noticed you were taking notes, so in 30 seconds, if you have a response and a rebuttal.
Absolutely. First and foremost, to answer the question about the impact that this has on our schools are struggling to get educators, and it is tough enough as it is to be a teacher. You already have to be worried about being involved in a school shooting. Now our teachers have to worry about being sued or prosecuted because of a school shooting. These types of decisions have a huge impact on our ability to educate, and I think that it's important for our Commonwealth Attorney to understand that as the elected, it's your job to decide what cases you do and do not go forward on, and to be reflective of what the community is wanting. Secondly, with respect to what took so long in that case, I think that the lack of collaboration with the police department was problematic. The police department turned over the binders months before the decision was made. And I believe that by working collaboratively with our police department throughout the investigative process, it will help us to charge our cases sooner. And in that instance, the community was waiting for a decision, and I felt that we owed it to them to be thorough, but to also move quickly.
Our audience also has questions when it comes to prosecuting drug offenses. Ms. Jones, I will address this to you. What do you think is the most effective way to deal with low-level drug offenders?
I think that the Commonwealth Attorney's Office needs to be involved with more misdemeanor offenses. That is where we are losing people. I deeply understand that a felony conviction is a life sentence, and waiting to get involved at the felony level, for many people, it is too late. When it comes to nonviolent offenses, I believe that we need to be working on rehabilitation and prevention, which is why I do want to work to pick up more misdemeanor cases. And I do not have intentions of trying to focus on convictions for those cases. But I do believe that it's important to put resources in place and to meet people where they are. Our community has way too many nonviolent felons, and it's because we don't adopt the policy of first felony avoidance. What that means is that the Commonwealth Attorney makes the decision that every attempt to avoid felonies. Now, to be clear, we will always prosecute dangerous offenders. We will always work to get those types of people out of our communities, but the vast majority of the cases that we see going through our system are not that. They are nonviolent offenses, and that's literally where people are slipping through the cracks. We cannot wait for a felony to get involved. We have to get involved sooner.
Mr. Boyd, you have 30 seconds.
Yes, ma'am. I think Ms. Jones, again, I know it's been a couple of years since she worked in the office, but we've had drug court for over 20 years, where we refer people to drug court and they get treatment. I would invite anybody in this room, if you want to understand how effective drug court is, please come to a drug court graduation to see mothers who've been separated from their children reunite, see women who sold their bodies to crack, get GEDs and get college educations, to see families reunited, That program, again, has been in effect for over 20 years. And we even have low-level drug dealers who support their habit by selling crack in the program.
Mr. Gwynn, studies show racial disparities in drug law enforcement. What would you do to minimize those disparities?
I think the primary thing to be successful in any office is the people that you hire. You have to hire people with the right values. I've hired people, I have a team of people who share the values in this community. Honesty, integrity, responsibility, accountability, a strong faith, justice and fairness. I give them the responsibility to do their jobs. We all share the same mission. That is to serve the people in this community by helping each other. Because we believe in the Commonwealth Attorney's office, how can you help a stranger who comes in off the street who's not willing to help a person in the office next to you? So hiring people with the right values is a key to solving every problem.
30 seconds.
Well, I just want to say that first and foremost, I am very familiar with our drug court and our behavioral health docket. And I was at the last graduation. I helped pack the bags to give to our graduates. So I'm very involved with the recovery dockets that our courts have. But I just want to make it clear that those recovery dockets in our circuit court are post-conviction dockets. Those are individuals who have been found guilty of a felony. And what I am talking about is prevention. We are trying to prevent people from getting the felonies to begin with. And if you're involved at the misdemeanor level, if you're reaching people early, then you will prevent them from ever ending up in the circuit court to begin with.
And we have a number of questions that the audience has submitted that we want to make sure that we get to. Mrs. Jones, questions about your experience and your ability to lead an office the size of the Newport News Commonwealth Attorney's office. The question is, what skills do you bring to the table that show you can run an office the size of the Newport News Commonwealth Attorney's office? And a second question related to that, what is the largest number of people you have managed?
Well, first and foremost, the reason why I know that I can lead an office the size of this one is because when my opponent was elected in 1990, he was 38 years old, he had been in the office for 8 years, and he was challenging someone who worked in the office that was the second in command. The reason why this community voted for him in 1990 is because he had a vision that this community aligned with. I know that I can do this job because I have been a leader in this community for years. Newport News is my home and I love it immensely. I give every ounce of my being to this city every single day. But the work that I do as a city attorney is some of the most important work that I've ever done. And I love being a prosecutor, but being able to work with our public safety departments and to advise our 500-person police department, to advise our 300-person fire department is so important. I literally help them write their policies every day. I deal with their personnel issues every single day. And when incidents happen in this community, they call me. I am available to them 24/7. And when incidents happen and they can't reach the Commonwealth Attorney's office, they call my phone. I am already a leader in public safety. I work hand in hand with our police departments, and I work hand in hand in this community. I know about the fight for criminal justice. I know about the vision that we want to move forward in. And just like in 1990, when this community said that a 38-year-old with 8 years of experience was qualified, I know that my 12 years of experience, my commitment to this city, and the work that I have done clearly demonstrates that I have the experience and I have the heart to do this work.
Mr. Wynn, if you'd like to respond.
Sure. Comparing what happened in 1990 to what's happening this year is a false comparison. It's like comparing apples to oranges. When I ran for this job in 1990, we had 14 employees. Now we have the largest law firm in the city of Newport News, 75 employees. When I ran for this office in 1990, we probably had five jury trials pending. Now we have over 152. When I ran for this office in 1990, Newport News is not nearly the city of violence that it currently is. So trying to compare my running in 1990 and running for the job in 2025 is simply a false comparison. Also, one thing I also want to add, Ms. Jones said that we simply did not collaborate with the police department in the Ridgeneck shooting. That's completely false. We did.
Thank you. Mr. Gwynn, a question about the demographics of the staff of the Commonwealth's Attorney Office? And what are the demographics? That's question one. The second, what are the plans to continue to recruit and retain talented and diverse prosecutors?
The demographics in my office, I have 2 Asian females, several African American females, no African American males. And we have actively tried to recruit in law schools for males, but when you go to law schools and talk to the brothers, they just want to get paid. They don't want to work in an office where they don't get paid. So, in fact, there are a couple of the African American females in my office here today. Cassie Q back there. We're actually taking a trip to North Carolina Central to the law school there in a couple of months to recruit there. The key to retaining experienced, competent staff is first to pay them. But second of all, to create a culture where they feel valued. Because my office doesn't pay as much as Virginia Beach or Norfolk or Chesapeake, but people choose to stay in Newport News because of the culture that we have created together. A culture where they're seen and heard, where their opinions are respected, where they're trusted, where they don't have to run everything past me because I trust and believe in them and value them. A lot of them are here today, and they're here because of the culture that we've created in the office.
Ms. Jones, 30 seconds.
I started in this office in 2016, and there was not a single deputy of color, and there has not been one since. But this argument that people of color just want to get paid is offensive. I think if you look at the Newport News Police Department, it's a clear sign that individuals who are committed to public safety do the work not because they want to get paid, but because they believe in service. Since Chief Drew has been in our police department, the rate of recruitment has increased substantially. We are nearly fully staffed at 472 officers, and our city has committed to take us to 500 because we have proven that we can fill those spots. But getting recruitment is about creating a culture that people want to go to. And the turnover rate in the office is an indication that it's not a culture that attracts diverse candidates.
A question from the audience for Mrs. Jones. What types of cases have you handled as a prosecutor?
I have literally handled just about every type of criminal case that there is. Through my experience from Philadelphia into the city of Newport News, I have been able to handle robberies, rapes, murders, child sex cases. I have done numerous cases where I've had victims as young as 6 years old that I've had testify in court. I have done dozens of juries. But in addition to my experience as a prosecutor, my work as a city attorney matters. I have been able to do state and federal court work through my experience. I've also done both criminal and civil work, and I have worked on the defense and prosecution side. That experience has given me a perspective that gives me a vision for how we can move forward. It's very important to note that there's not just one type of way to do it. And I understand that because my opponent has been in the office for 40 years, that we think that the next person has to have the same experience. But I think that my experience in other jurisdictions and in other practice areas is what gives me the edge. I have a clear vision for how to do more, and it's because I have gone to other places and I have seen them do it differently, and I've seen them do it better.
Mr. Gwynn, if you have a response, 30 seconds.
That's what I do. First of all, I never said people of color just want to get paid. What I said was that the young African American males that I've talked to, that we actually went to William and Mary's Balsa meetings, and I was told by them that what they wanted to do was get paid first and work for a corporation, and maybe then they would do public service. Also, Ms. Jones talked about the turnover rate in the office. The turnover rate is low. I got people, the average level of experience in my office is 11 years among 30 lawyers. So that's not a low turnover rate.
Our audience has asked several questions regarding conflicts of interest and ethics regarding the Commonwealth's Attorney's office. Mr. Gwynn, do you think it is ethical for Commonwealth Attorney candidates to take money from attorneys who actively have cases in your jurisdiction where the Commonwealth's Attorney's office is involved? If so, please elaborate.
As long as, again, I think it comes back to hiring fair, ethical people. people who make decisions based on the law and the evidence, not because of fear or favor. Anybody who knows me knows that I have never made a political decision in the office. I've never made a decision except for decisions based on the law and the evidence. I've never been swayed by my relationship with anyone, nor has anybody who worked with me done the same. That we are fair and ethical under all circumstances. We treat everybody the same no matter what they do, where they come from, no matter what the color of their skin is or their economic status, whether they are a lawyer or a layperson. We treat everyone the same because that's what we're charged to do.
And a follow-up question to that, do you think it's ethical to have employees you supervise to manage your political campaign? If so, please elaborate.
I don't think it's a problem. It's something they'll do during work time.
All right, Ms. Jones, 30 seconds if you'd like to respond.
Yes, I think that, in my opinion, it is a conflict. I think the toughest thing about our criminal justice system is the lack of trust. And we have to make sure that we are making decisions that our community can believe in what we're doing. And when you have a Commonwealth Attorney who is taking money from individuals whose cases he's prosecuting, it raises questions about your impartiality and whether you're truly being neutral. So I do not believe that it is appropriate to be taking money on the cases that you prosecute. And in those instances, I think that it'd be appropriate to bring in a special prosecutor.
Mrs. Jones, what would be your 100-day plan if elected? How do you plan to hit the ground running?
Well, I plan on getting started well before January 1st, if God willing I am elected. But the first thing that I want to do is to meet with the staff in our office. It's very important to me that everyone here, because I know there's a lot of people from the office that are here, I want you to know that I am excited to work with you. So many of you I have worked with for years, and I look forward to the opportunity to continue to collaborate. But I think that what we need to do is sit down and talk about the path forward. I've listened to you all talk about the things that you want to have changed. I've listened to the things that have been going wrong for years, and that is the place that we start. At the table, talking about internally, how do we improve some of these processes? But then the next step is going to be the collaboration outside. I'm definitely going to sit down and meet with the Newport Police Department, our court, and our public defenders. This is the first opportunity that we have had in decades to have real change. And there's so many ideas that I've heard from inside the office and from our community. And then the last thing that I will say is that I prioritize community prosecution. And I want for those who have not had the opportunity to do it, to get out in Newport News, get out in the community. I do expect for that to be a part of the job, and I understand that there's always resistance to change, but I believe that our community wants to see us out there right alongside the Newport Police Department and Fire Department, and I think that that'll be a very positive change for our office.
Mr. Gwynn, 30 seconds.
Could everybody who currently works in the Commonwealth Attorney's Office please stand up? All right. As you can see, there are a lot of people who work in the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, and I would certainly, how many of you had the opportunity to work with Ms. Jones? Raise your hand. I would certainly invite anybody in this room to talk to these people, because they've had experience working with Ms. Jones in the office. I will also tell you that we collaborate with everybody, because there's no way to do this work without building relationships.
I am a student of history, and history continues to repeat itself. In 1990, when Howard Wynn ran, this is exactly what his opponent did. I have read the news articles about how his opponent tried to attack him and tear him down. This is what happened to Congressman Scott when he ran in his 20s for his first state office, and is what happened to Mayor Jones when he ran not that long ago. We are always going to be challenged in our experience, and there are always going to be people who will say that we are not ready. But to be clear, there is no way that I would be running for office if I didn't have the support of this community. I have been proudly endorsed by our state senator, Senator Locke, by Mayor Jones, by our school board chair, by half of our city council, which I won't ask them to stand up, but the leaders that you trust are in this room. And not only do I have the support of this community, I have the support of our elected officials. Our community is dying for change, and we have not had it in a long time. I would not be sitting here if there wasn't a desire for change. And so yes, I welcome every single person in this room to please come and talk to me about the path forward, because the time for change is now, and we are not going to wait.
We have a question for each of our candidates. You each have 2 minutes to answer this question. Mr. Gwynn, we'll start with you. What do you feel is the number one challenge facing the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office today?
I think the number one challenge is retaining and getting good people. As everybody knows, there are fewer people going to law school, there are fewer people going to be prosecutors. So the number one challenge is retaining and keeping people. So one thing you have to do is pay those people. So I've been able to, in the last several months, get substantial increases from my folks, which increases their willingness to stay. But I think also, again, it's about building a culture that people want to be a part of. It's about building a team that people want to be a part of. It's about having a vision for the future that not only includes prosecuting violent felonies, but also diverting people and having an opportunity to be involved in programming that sees the lives of people changed, to see broken families made whole, to see kids transformed into positive, productive citizens, to see women who've been abused all their lives be changed from victims to victors, to see abusers, thousands of abusers who now respect women and understand how valuable they are. That's what this job is about, and that's what people want to be a part of.
And Mrs. Jones, what is the number one challenge you feel is facing the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office today?
I actually agree with Mr. Gwynn. It is definitely recruiting additional attorneys. But the problem here is that we're not doing anything differently. I mentioned earlier that our Newport News Police Department has been actively working to recruit officers, and it's because they've taken a new approach. We have been so lucky to increase our numbers, and as I said, the city manager's office has given us more spots. But how do we create a culture that people want to come to? First and foremost, when I was in his office, I talked to him about doing diverse recruitment, specifically at HBCUs. But more than that, we have to create programs that engage our community and attract people to want to go into the profession of law. The STARS mock trial program, which we, again, had our trial today, these young people want to become lawyers because of this program. And not only am I engaging with high school students, I'm bringing in students from CNU, William & Mary, and NSU to come and be a part of this program. The judges and lawyers who are part of the STARS program help our kids to get into law school. And despite the fact that I am a city attorney and that I am currently running for office, I have written numerous letters of recommendation over the past couple of months for my kids to get them into college and then into law school. It's not enough to just say, like, you want to recruit more people. You have to be engaged. You have to have a vision and a plan. And I think that there are so many people in our community who are interested in the law, but they want to be in an office that shares the same values and has the culture that they have. Again, our community wants to see criminal justice reform happening, and that's not something that we have happening in this office. So as far as recruitment goes, I believe that we can increase those numbers by being in the community, investing in our youth, and creating a culture that invites diverse candidates to come to play.
30 seconds.
Thank you. One of the things I want to say is that Ms. Jones talks quite a bit about the STARS program, but she never tells the whole story. When the STARS program started, it started in the Newport News Commonwealth Attorney's Office. Ms. Jones came to me and had an idea. And the idea was a good idea. And I asked Ms. Jones, what do you need to turn this idea into reality? And she said, I need work time to work on the program. Also need the resources and the human resources of the office. And she was given that. And so that program, it was her idea, but it was implemented by the Commonwealth Attorney's Office.
Ms. Jones, 30 seconds before we start to prepare for our closing statement.
Yes, I have put my blood, sweat, and tears into the STARS program. And as a leader, as the Commonwealth's attorney, I would expect that he would have come to the STARS program as well. But he did not. When it came time for me to get funding for the STARS program, I had to go to the Newport News Police Department to get funding for pizza for my kids, to get transportation for my kids. That program has been my pride and joy, and it has been the Shannon Jones STARS program. Now, I could not do it without the judges and lawyers who take the time out of their busy day and schedule to come and support my young people. But I think it's a false idea to try to take credit for something that I have worked so hard and built year after year. It has been going for 6 years, and I don't know when was the last time that Mr. Gwynn engaged with those kids.
Well, we appreciate our candidates sharing their insight, their perspective, their experience, and their vision for the Newport News Commonwealth Attorney's Office and the community. At this time, we are going to prepare for our closing statements. Each candidate will have 1 minute. Mr. Gwynn, we will begin with you.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody coming tonight. There's been a lot of discussion up here about how Ms. Jones advises the police department. I know the mayor on social media has said that it's critically important that the police support the candidate. And I am proud to announce, in case some people don't know, that the Police Benevolent Association endorsed me. I will also tell people that when you talk about reform, folks say, we don't do reform in my office. I mean, that's been repeated several times up here. But I also tell you, because of the reforms that we do, they're not only recognized in Newport News, but are recognized around the state. There's an award that the Virginia State Bar gives out every year. It's called a Character Award. And I received that award on behalf of my office in 2024. Let me tell you what part of the requirement is. The individual who gets this award has made a singular and unique contribution to the improvement of the criminal justice system in Virginia, emphasizing professionalism as a basic tenet in the administration of justice. I've done the work. You don't have to guess about me. I've done the work in the office. I've led the office. I've led programs that work. We have a reduction in violent crime because of the programs that we have that work. Our number one obligation in this community is not put people in jail, but make people productive, functioning citizens. The Crime Prevention Program does that. Drug Court does that. Mental Health Court does that. Again, when you are facing a most critical decision in your life, let's say you have to have surgery and somebody has to do an operation. You want a doctor who's been doing this surgery for 2 years, or do you want the head of surgery doing it? Experience matters. Ms. Jones talks about her experience, but I've had experience in the office doing the work. Thank you.
And Ms. Jones, your closing statement.
First and foremost, thank you so much to all of our voters who came out here today, and to the NAACP, the Coalition of Concerned Clergy, and to New Beach Grove. First and foremost, I will say this is a Democratic primary, and the Police Benevolent Association is a conservative, right-leaning organization, so I am not surprised that they endorsed my opponents. But I stand with the Democratic leadership of this city. I stand with Senator